eastward, upturning its proposed indefinite strike action scheduled to commence today. The labor organs agreed to suspend its strike for 30 days to enable the government reached after hours of meeting last night. This was contained in a memorandum of understanding signed by the NLC President Joe Ajero and General Secretary Emmanuel Ogwaja, as well as the TUC President Festus Osifo and Secretary General Nuhu Toro. The three-page document was also signed by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Dr. Nkiruka Onyejecha, and Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. Among other things, the federal government has agreed to a wage award of 35,000 naira only to all federal government workers beginning from the month of September, pending when a new national minimum wage was expected to have been signed into law. Consequently, it was agreed that the federal government should call state governments through the National Economic Council and Governors Forum to implement wage award for their workers, while similar consideration was also craved for local government and private sector workers. Meanwhile, a transport boost to alleviate the petrol subsidy pain has been unveiled by the federal government. In a major highlight in the agreements reached between the federal which halted the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress strike plan, the decision on transportation also include provision of 55,000 CNG conversion kits to start an auto gas conversion program, pending the completion of ongoing work on the state-of-art CNG stations nationwide. Federal government is also suspending collection of value-added tax VAT on diesel for 6 months beginning from October 2023. The last leg of the 15-point agreements also noted federal government's commitment to the provision of funds as announced by the President on August 1 broadcast for micro and small-scale enterprises and the joint visitation to be made to the refineries to ascertain their rehabilitation status. Now, in other stories, Chicago State University CSU has released to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar the academic records of President Bola Tinubu. CSU released the documents to Atiku in compliance with the order of the United States District Court in Northern District of Illinois. In ordering CSU to release Tinubu's academic record, a U.S. District Judge dismissed the President's objection. Atiku intends to use the CSU academic record in pursuit of his appeal at the Supreme Court, where he is challenging Tinubu's victory in the February 25 presidential election. Tinubu's legal team has argued that the documents will be of no use at the Supreme Court. Ondo State government has renewed its covenant with God to remain attentive to his directives for continued peace and growth of the state. This was reaffirmed at this year's Covenant Renewal Day in Akure, where Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu was represented by Special Advisor on Special Duties and Union Matters, Dare Aragbaye. Omorola Ugbenji reports that the event, which made its debut in 2008, had eminent personalities in attendance.
Governor of Ondo State of Nigeria, hereby I affirm that Jehovah the God who created the heavens and the earth is our God.
On behalf of the entire Christian community in Ondo State, hereby pray.
For about 2 decades, this has been the practice where government and Christian Association of Nigeria can, in the state, come together on the nation's Independence Day to renew their covenants with God on sustained peace and progress in the state. Categories of people were represented at the altar through the 3 tiers of government: executive, legislature, and judiciary, as well as CAN, women and children, to perform the rituals which has been yielding positive results since inception. songs, ministration and playlets, which centered on the collective efforts of the church and government for societal growth, added glamour to the event. Governor of Ondo State, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, represented by Special Advisor on Special Duties and Junior Matters, Dare Aragbaye, reaffirmed the government's commitment to the covenant he made with God and remain unperturbed, come what may.
Let me assure you, sirs and mass and our fathers, that our governor, as I said, is committed to the covenant to the Almighty God. Our governor is resolute to serve with God and to be counted. We have raised a number of points that border on governance. Our governor is willing at all times to have according to the mind of God on any issue. And that's why people will believe that because one thing or the other is happening is distracted. I can assure you that it's never distracted.
Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, Ondo State Chapter, Reverend Father Anselm Ologunwa, frowned at the deceptive nature of man, including the countless number of innocent bloodshed in the land.
Christ is the one who can bring peace for us in this nation. Therefore, we have to ask for his peace. Let us cover our land with his blood. His blood bleeds more distinctly for us than all the blood shed in the history of our
nation. Coordinator of the program, Pastor Peter Abimbola, enjoined Christians to engage more on fervent prayers, saying, "The peace of the nation is the peace of all."
The theme of this year, 2023 Covenant Renewal, is the working of his mighty power. That is Ephesians chapter 1 verse 19. This is carefully crafted based on our strong and firm belief in the power of God that never fails, regardless of the myriads of challenges facing Nigeria and our dear state.
Guest speaker, Right Reverend Peter Alabi, backed by biblical injunction, said peace will be far away if necessities and actions are not in place to attract girls' attention.
If the power of God comes upon your life will not be controlled for this. Will not be controlled for all the power of the enemy put together. They will never succeed over your life because the power of God is so powerful.
Prayers for categories of human beings were led by selected anointed men of God during the event.
What we just witnessed here right now is the annual Covenant Renewal Service of the state government in collaboration with Christian Association of Nigeria, the state chapter, to come together in one accord to pray to God and to commit into his hands everything that has to do with the state for continuous peace in the states of Morning Western States.
Enugu State and the Indonesian government are set to stimulate greater trade and investment between Nigeria and the Southeast Asian country across key sectors such as agriculture, energy, power, and transport. As part of Enugu State Governor Peter Amba is expected to give a keynote address at the Nigerian-Indonesian Trade and Investment Forum scheduled for Jakarta, Indonesia this month. Secretary to the state government, Professor Chidebere Onya, disclosed this at a meeting in Lagos that Enugu would benefit greatly from the forum, given the state's abundant resources and potentials. President of the Nigerian-Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ishmael Balogun, noted that investments between Nigeria and Indonesia have grown from $2.6 billion in 2021 to $4.6 billion in 2022. He, however, said both countries have the potential to do much more